we'll get started. I appreciate you guys dealing with all my technical difficulties. And like I said, the biggest thing with this whole process of creating this community and trying to do this is just that we get better at jiu-jitsu. Like, long story short, I have some cool content I think this week. I'm trying to like study different things of what I think will be good for the group and how we can all grow from it. And so last week we did gi, and now this week I want to do a no gi video. What I want to do first is a little bit different. We're going to break into breakout groups first. And I want you guys to, because it might be a different people in your group, so I just want you to introduce yourself again real quick. I want you to basically say how long you've been training, and then I want you to just say like what you worked on last week. Okay? And what I mean by that is some of you guys were on the call last week, so you were able to know the video we watched and you tried to like maybe work on some of those concepts. What did you get out of your declare last week? Did it show improvements? Did it not show improvements? What did you kind of learn from that? Does that kind of make sense? We'll do like 8-minute breakout group and we will kick off the meeting with that process before we go into the technique. We'll do 8-minute room, 10-second, everything's saved. All right, here we go. We're going to start with Andrew first, and then Andrew, you'll call out whoever you want to call. Your mic's muted right now.
All righty.
I've been training for.
Sorry,
We got two Andrews here then.
I forgot. I promise I'm going to get my life together. We're going to go with Andrew Miller first. Sorry.
Okay. That's actually ironic. I didn't see that coming. Okay. So, my name is Andrew Miller. I have been training between the 2 and 3 year mark. And my declare for last week, I had two different declares. One that I was going to stop forcing my knee cut and work on that backstep pass, but all in all, I ended up working on more outside passing, which was another goal of mine, which was successful in its own right. But I need to, on that headquarters position, focus more on that backstep pass still. That's still something I'm trying to work on. And then also I was working on some single leg X variants, just some like supine guard type stuff, which my declare for that was to just learn more, refine it more, and add more variables to my ankle lock game, which was successful, and I do feel like benefited me. So that was my declare, and I presume I need to toss it off to somebody else.
Yes.
Okay, I'll toss it off to the other Andrew.
Oh, okay, I'm unmuted now. I missed the last week, so the declare thing, I'm not sure what that means, but I'm assuming that it means what we wanted to work on. So personally, my goal was to be a better coach last week to help the guys prepare for the upcoming tournament they have in St. Charles. We did that. We helped refine some of their half guard sweeps. You were there on Saturday. We worked on the mount control and maintaining that position. And this week, based on that, I'm going to give them some more escape options that we didn't go over Saturday from the mount. So that's what I got. Oh, I've been training for 6.5, almost 7 years.
Who are you going to pass it on to? Greg or
Uh,
Tori?
Tori.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Tori. I've been training in April. It'll be 7 years, and I train in Bloomington, Illinois. And last week, my declare was going to be in the video. He talked about starting at the end of something and working your way backwards. Because if you can't get the final thing, how are you going to get the 25 steps up to the final thing? So I not only worked on that for myself, but I started doing that with some of my kids that are going to be competing soon. I started working on like the end of a submission, the end of a position for them, and actually they catch on so much faster, so it's more fun to see them improve on the new techniques that you're bringing in to them. So that was my declare for last week, and I look forward to seeing what this week will bring. And Greg, it's all you, buddy.
Thank you, pal. I'm Greg. I think I've been training about 2 years. I don't know exactly. And I unfortunately missed last week, so I kind of don't understand the language of declared and stuff. But my focus has been guard passing and getting into X guard. And yesterday I was able to make some attempts into getting into X guard, during live rolls. So I guess that was my win.
Yeah, well, I'll break down the notepad here when we get back into the main room. Last week, my declare was that I was gonna stop putting so much pressure on. Basically, we went over the knee shield concept, right? Like when we're passing the guard, we went over that we're gonna use our hip to kind of shut down the knee shield so that they can't essentially scissor sweep us, kind of keep like a knee on belly angle there. And I've been working that for the last week. I definitely feel like I probably put 20 or 30 different rounds into practicing that and getting to that position. And I noticed a lot when I wasn't trying so hard to force the pressure, if that makes sense. Like before, I would try to emphasize so high on putting tons of a pressure forward that he said focus more on like stabilizing yourself, focus more on putting yourself in that position and being comfortable instead of just like trying to overdo it. And so I focused on that a lot, and I felt like it gave me a little bit more mobility. It allowed me to move around the people's guards so much instead of just kind of like being stuck to them, driving pressure into them. I felt like I had good results with my declare for the week. And other than that, did anybody else have some good success stories this week?
I'll give you guys a win. The beginning of the year, I don't really do resolutions, but this year I decided that I'm going to actively train jujitsu at least 6 days a week. I opened a school about a year and a half ago now. And when you do that, you kind of lose yourself in having to do the other side and having to coach and not giving yourself the time that you deserve. So, up to right now, I've been fully committed with what I've said I'm going to do. And I've trained every single day. I give myself Fridays off. But by like 7 p.m. Friday night, I'm actually just itching to train. And I'm almost like, who wants to come to the school and do drills with me? But by that time, no one will come. But that's my win for the week.
All right, so yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with these groups is I know that it's going to take time to figure out like a decent flow. One, to get through all like the technical issues, and two, just to like connect with each other and then get comfortable with understanding like what the process is. So we're going to break out of this group in 50 seconds, and then in 50 seconds, we will start using our notepad. So I hope you guys have a notepad, digital notepad. I'll link that, the Telegram group, just so you guys can kind of stay updated. Actually, that's what if everyone was in the Telegram group and there was a mistake, I could probably shoot the Zoom link across that, and that would make life a lot easier. I think it'll take 3 or 4 or 5 of these different calls just for us to get more comfortable with the process of everything we're doing. And hopefully I don't make any more mistakes along the way. I think I fixed my pen. If anybody watched last week's meeting, I looked like Lucy writing on a scribble pad. Let's get back into the main room, and then we're going to start diving into the technique videos. I appreciate your guys' feedback. I linked that is if you want to do the form and not on a notepad. Otherwise, if you have a notepad, any notepad will work. Just in case if anybody's writing from a regular notepad and not one of these or doing the form, I want to get all the steps real quick in here, and maybe I won't write like a third grader. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to write is, I'm still a little bit like a third grader, title and name. All right, so on the notepad, you're going to have a title and name. Today's video that we're going to watch is going to be wrestling up from guard. So the first thing that you're going to have at the top of your revelation, all right, you'll have a little box down here. You'll write in that. And then the second one will be, how can this be applied? Oh. This thing's so hard to write on. What else stood out? Right? Each one of these steps. Okay, so title, name, revelation. When we're watching the video, what do you see that's standing out to you? And here's the thing that I was thinking about last night. When you guys are watching these technique videos, don't just listen to what the person's saying. Okay. Sometimes we get in the habit of like watching a video and we just go on autopilot of watching what the person's saying. And then we're not looking for those really key details. So I want you guys to think about like looking at their feet placements, looking at their hand placements, looking at their frames, All right. Look for a revelation beyond just some of the words that they're saying so that you get more out of it. Because I think anyone that's taught or instructed understands that when you're instructing and teaching something, you forget all the little details, right? Like we tell the details that come to our mind in that second, but then like later on, we're like, oh yeah, well, I forgot to tell you this. Well, all these people that are teaching these instructionals that we watch, they're doing the same thing. So sometimes the best thing that you can get is actually watching somebody else, what they're physically doing, not just what they're saying, if that makes sense. Okay, so we got revelation, we got how can this be applied? What else stood out? Then here's the big one. What will you do, right? This is the one that really matters, okay? So once you get the revelation and you figure out how it can kind of be applied in your game or how it can work, other things of what else stood out, okay? The what will you do is really simple. All right. You got start, stop, or sustain. All right. Now, you can do one or you can do all three. All right. It doesn't matter because remember, this is your guys' journey and it matters if it works for you. And it don't overthink this, but in a simple way, the way to look at it is like on this one, I said, I'm going to start that sideways stance with my hip, trapping their knee shield, and also look at trapping of their knee and keep their shoulder flat while doing that. You might do one start, you might do one stop, you might do one sustain, you might do all of them, or you might do one of them. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you guys see the technique behind it, and then you go to class and you start applying it. Okay. Does that make sense to everyone? If it does, please give a thumbs up. But the start, stop, and sustain is crucial. Maybe you need to stop rushing the pass. Maybe you need to stop, putting your hands on the mat. Maybe you need to stop grabbing the head because it's getting you forward rolled every time. Whatever the case is, when we're watching these videos, there might be one, two, or three things that you can do in that process. Okay. So that's where the start, stop, sustain comes from. All right. What is the next step? So what is next? After you got your start, stop, and sustain, what is next? This could be many different things. It could be like, what's the next step that if you're working on your knee cut and you're working on getting through the knee cut, the next step is that I want to learn that if the knee cut fails, that I'm going to start diving into learning this technique of what to do around that. Or it could be, what is next? I'm going to go to class and I'm going to start putting 50 live knee cut rounds in and actually learn what the next part of knee cutting is. There's no perfect way to this, okay? It's your process here. Then the last one is, let's see if this works real quick. This is kind of cool though. I didn't know it did that. All right. But I need to stop clicking it once I click it. The next is bonus, just whatever you guys take away during the video. All right. So in the process of it, none of these have to go from start to stop. Okay. None of them are like revelations the first and bonus is the last. Okay. Bonus could be along the way that you see an extra little detail that's kind of like a side quest and you like that concept and you're going to just write that down as an extra note. Okay. And then the last stage is just simple. We're going to declare. Okay. What are you going to declare once you've completed this video, right? So for the week, what are you going to declare? Are you going to show up and apply these concepts to your game? You're going to work on this. Whatever you took away from your revelation, you're going to declare for the week that you're going to explore doing something, fixing something, starting, stopping, etc. And then when we meet next week, that's what we're going to talk about or declare. Does that make sense to everyone? Everyone understands what we're doing? We're good. We're ready to kind of dive into the technique video.
So we're not going to go straight to the finish just yet. I want to work on first setting up my partner to be posturing up so that I can have more space on my partner's leg and expose one side of the body. Basically, anytime I'm doing this, I try to always think about being safe before I start to commit too much to legs. Biggest mistake I think you can make from here is shooting with no grips while your partner has a low stance. I don't have any setup and I try to come up for a double leg or a single leg, my partner touches my neck, Next thing I know, I'm in a submission or he's sprawling. You know, I'm gonna put him. And so whenever you are looking to wrestle up, try to always take the right opportunity and make sure you're committing and it's at the right time. Okay? So you don't want to rush it. You need to create the opportunity and create the space to get for you take comfortable. And so first, we're just going to work on the off balancing part and the timing of getting our partner to the exposure of the legs. And so usually whenever I'm doing this, I try to do one side of my hip. I feel that I can scoot forward, move back, and go to the side a lot easier when I'm on one side of my hip and I have my hand on the ground. So try to have this stance versus being square. I think it's also a lot easier to control your partner's head if you're on the side of your hip. Because you've got one strong arm here, but you're also using your whole right side. Right? Whenever I'm here, I can really only bring him down. I don't have much strength like pushing him to the side. If I'm on my hip, I can bring him down, but I can also use my forearm, my elbow to push him this way. Okay. So basically what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to bring my partner's posture down, put weight on the head so that he has to address it and start moving the hand off the back of the neck. So I start controlling the back of his head. I'm going to start putting pressure downward, but also towards his foot. So you're trying to make him look down towards his towards the far foot. Okay, so you make them cross. Whenever they see that this is bothering them, they start to push this off and start posturing up. Okay, as soon as the posture comes up, I'm looking to put 2 hooks behind my partner's feet. Okay, right now he has this square stance with me. I need to make him putting one leg back so that I can have this leg here exposed, and that's going to be attacked. So it's here. I control the neck. I start pushing him down. When he postures up, I'm going to use that hand on the ground to now scoot forward, and then I'm going to come in square, putting both legs behind my partner's heels. This hand that was controlling the back of the head is now free, and I can start pushing my partner. Okay, you'll see how every time he tries to regain his balance and create his base, he's going to pick one leg and start stepping that foot back. Okay, a lot of times this can even turn into a sweep. If I'm able to put him down, he loses balance, falls onto the hip, you can wrestle up off of this too. Okay, most of the time if you've got somebody that is experienced on top, they're going to pick one leg and they're going to start stepping back. Okay, whenever he postures up, I'm looking for his head coming up, so I can now put that hand on the chest. I scoot in, and my partner's going to step back. Okay, this is all we're going to do right now. All I want to work on is just creating this off balance and exposing with the legs. Okay, go again. Okay, this is more about like the timing. There's not a whole lot of steps you have to do, but it's more about the timing of when his head comes up, you're entering at that same time. Okay, so we're here moving. I'm on the side of my hip. I get close, control his head, just like this. And control the head. He steps back. Okay, most of the time your partner is going to step this leg back. I'll show also what I like to do whenever the partner steps this one back, but most of the time they're going to step back with the same side you have the hand on the ground, especially since a lot of people like to have this right leg in front, and I personally like to have my left on the ground. Usually it's going to be the same side that your partner leaves in front. Okay, we'll talk about different reactions after this. And more time. Moving, push them to the side. Give them the step. Okay, for now you can start controlling the leg. Okay, but I don't want you guys to come up just yet. Okay, just control your partner's leg and then reset. Right? Drop it. So like I said, I want to separate this into different parts. So the first part was just creating the opportunity, right? Just making your partner leave one leg in front. Usually they'll leave that common leg in front, but it doesn't really matter which leg they end up stepping back. There's options for both sides. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on the actual coming up one. Okay, this is more like the technical stand-up. You're coming all the way up to your partner's leg, and we're just gonna stop once we get attached to the leg. Okay, we'll separate that and the finish, which is what we'll be covering next. Okay. So our partner's standing. We're gonna start with the same setup. Try to always be really on your side. Okay? Even if you got your hand on the mat, don't be here like this. Okay, you're a lot stronger like this because your shoulder is already kind of coming down. So I can push him down a lot further if I'm using my chest, my whole upper body here, versus just using my hand here and then pulling down. This is more like your bicep, right? You're trying to use your back and everything together. Here, you're pushing to the side. Because a lot of times what can happen is if I see my partner really react to this, I can use this to start taking him down from here. Okay, most of the time they're going to resist letting their head go that far across their body. If they allow me to push the hand all the way across, you can catch an ankle pick right there. It's here. Look how I'm really on the side, and this knee is staying open. Okay, it doesn't go down to where my partner can get down to my hips, but it's staying open so I can move out and I can stay safe from him coming in and looking for hip control at the same time. Okay, your hand that's looking for the back of the head is closed here. There's not a lot of space between your elbow and your knee. So if you see your partner try to come for like a body lock, your knee and your elbow is here to block. I can push back and shut him down. Okay, so that's how you're staying safe from that. We're here, bring him down, he postures. I start to push him back. Okay, that hand that was pushing his chest before is now going to start switching to the back of his knee. Okay, I like to treat this almost like an arm drag. And so the same way you do an arm drag or a collar drag in the gi, you're going to use that same motion to help you get up to your knee and start switching your posture. So your posture is going to change from facing this way to turning to the other side. Okay, so this grip here is going to help you come up to the knee. As you're coming up, you're trying to turn this shoulder to the inside and put your ear against your partner's hip. Okay, so I have this cross grip here. My feet are going to tuck in. I'm going to build up to my knee. Okay, now I'm here controlling my partner's knee. I have good posture. My head is up a little bit above his hip now. And look at how I'm behind my partner. Okay, try not to land directly in front of them where it's easier for them to sprawl on top of your head. Start making things heavy. Okay, this way. Here, head control, he postures, push him back. Then I go straight to the back of the knee. Okay, see how as he's stepping back, I'm already making that switch. Okay, it's okay that you take it step by step now and work on just the steps of where your hands should go, where your feet should go. Once you get the hang of it, you're going to try to be coming up as your partner stepping back. Okay, that's why it's a lot about the timing on this. Okay, so at first focus on the steps. As you guys get better at that, and you start timing coming up before your partner lands on the ground. Okay, so come back. When I'm here, he's stepping back. I'm grabbing and pulling myself up at the same time. Okay, this foot will hide behind me. My left foot will follow, and then that's when I swing my arm all the way through. So my left arm is going to try to go deep. This arm right now doesn't need to be hugging. Okay, this is more just creating a handle for me to pull myself up on. And I start getting this arm deep to the inside. So wrap your hand all the way around, right above your partner's knee. Don't need to lock hands right now. Okay, the way we're going to finish this in the next phase will not be with our hands locked. We're going to start sliding our hand down and switching to a different grip. Okay, for now, whenever you guys finish, or when you finish the drill, you'll come up to here and we'll stop right here. Okay, don't finish the takedown just yet. And so again, here, he postures, here. Hide the feet, then I come up. Okay. Something that some of you guys may have trouble with is the coming up part. Try not to take your feet out and come up this way because now your legs are in front of you. Okay, think about hiding your legs and switching your shoulders. Like it almost feels like you're doing like a breakdance move, like you're bringing your legs behind you and you're pulling yourself up off the leg. It's here. Then I come up, my head's in the right spot. I can hold on to my wrist for now, or I can stay with the grip on the back of the knee and in front of the leg. Okay. If my partner does step back with this leg, so if I push him back and he steps with that one, that's fine. Now I just switch which hand grabs. Here, and then hide. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which leg they're going back with. If they go to the other side, you'll just have to use your hand that's on the ground. Okay, of course, it'll be easier because this hand is already in the air to just switch to the back of the leg. But if they do that, I try to always go with the cross grip. But this gives me a lot more leverage to come up. Technically, you can come up with this grip, just might be a little bit harder, right? Because you have to go from here to hugging. Right? If I'm going across, but it just kind of drags me up, and this hand is free already when I come up. And if you do feel more comfortable going with the same side, let's say I'm here, I push him back. Let's say once we get here, if I feel more comfortable going with this side, that's fine. It's just preference. The only reason I would try to use this is if I'm trying to go shin to shin. But I'm using this setup to start going shin to shin. Maybe my wrestle up goes from there where you're trying to attack the legs. You can use this as your setup to get to the X guard. Or if you're trying to turn it into, I just pushed him back. Or you're trying to turn it into a wrestle up and come up this way, that could be an option. Okay, but that would pretty much for me, I try to always go with the cross grip. But if I was trying to get to shin, that could be a good option too. Okay, so let's start working with that cross grip. I know you guys are finishing the last drill with the cross grip. Use the cross grip now to come all the way up to your knees and start getting behind your partner on the single. All right, don't finish yet. We'll work on that next. All right, let's go on 3, 1, 2. Guys, so next we're going to start focusing on the finish. Okay, there's 2 separate finishes that I want to work. Okay, we'll work on the first one and then I'll show the second one after. And for the first finish, we're going to be finishing from the knees. So the same spot that you guys stopped from the last technique, we're going to start going from there. Okay, so head control, he addresses. I use the hooks to make him step back if he comes up with this one. Hiding my legs and coming up to this side. From here, the grip that we were finishing with wasn't the gable grip. Okay, you're coming up, holding onto your partner's thigh here, and the other hand is down by the back of the knee. The reason for that is because I want to be able to slide this hand down to my partner's heel. Okay, the way we're going to finish is I'm going to take my weight off my partner's leg, the one that I'm already controlling, using that hand on the back of the heel, but also my back knee, the one that's on the ground right now. Okay, so the idea is going to be to slide with this knee through so that I can start putting him down to a hip. Okay, when you think about doing this, you're going to think about doing a baseball slide and falling onto your elbow. Go to the other side, please. So we're here. This hand will slide down to my partner's heel. And look at how my knee isn't close to my partner's heel yet. Okay, I need to have it a little bit far away so that I can create some momentum with that first slide. Okay, if I'm really tall right now and I have my knee against my partner's leg, I'm not going to be able to move forward. Okay, I'm going to use the motion of my leg coming against my partner's ankle to knock him down and start turning the corner with my head. So it's here. I'm going to take a step forward with that right leg, and then my leg is going to turn sideways like this. So my shin is basically going to trip him. Here, I'm going to slide and then turn the corner. Okay, see how I land on my elbow and on the side of my hip right now. Okay, from here, I'm basically putting myself into a leg drag. I'm going to control my partner's shin here and start building up to my knees. So I have both legs on one side of his body. Right now, I can start connecting to my pass, and then coming up on top, attacking. Okay, so again. Here, playing guard, move, get the leg coming back, then now I'm coming up. Okay, my hand's on the same spot. Right, all I'm going to do is slide down with the right hand so I get down towards the ankle. If I stay with my hand up here and I try to do the same technique, he's going to be heavy on this leg. It's going to be like this. So you're basically doing an ankle pick with your right hand just to take a little bit of the weight off the mat. And then now the rest is going to be carried with my shin. So I slide, and look at how his knee is going to turn towards the outside. Okay, whenever I start turning in, I want his knee to bend. That's why I'm turning in towards him and using my head to help knock him down. So it's here, watch his knee. Okay, his knee turns out. Almost like the same pressure you would use on like a heel hook, turning your partner's knee to the side. Now from here, I keep control, build all the way up, and you're coming on top. Okay, one more. Here, push. Coming on top. Okay. If you guys want to start splitting it up a little bit and break it into the different pieces, if there's one part they're having trouble with, you're having trouble with the actual setup part, just work on that. If you guys want to work just on this finish, you can start with the leg already. Then as you guys go, you guys kind of add everything together. Okay, the next one we'll be working is whenever our partner stands up. Okay, so for now, let's just work on the finishes from the knees, and then we'll move on to whenever our partner stands up. All right, let's try and work. 1, 2. Okay, so we're going to work a similar finish now, but now we're going to be coming up to the feet. And so a lot of times this wrestling exchange can bring you all the way to the feet. And you can basically use the same technique that we were using from the knees, just from the feet, and we're just going to change a grip or two. So now I off balance him and make him step his leg back, wrestle up and get up to my knees. This is pretty much the hardest part, right? It's coming up and getting to this part. So you're able to get here. As long as your finishing skills are sharp, you already got through the hardest part of getting up and getting to here without getting choked or sprawled on. All right, so I'm in a good position to start finishing from here. If this turns into me driving up, I'm still going to come up with those same grips, controlling the back of the heel and my partner's knee. I'm going to drive up into my partner where I have the legs have my partner's leg in between both my knees. Okay. Before we were using a knee slide and turning the corner to help come all the way up. Now we're going to use the same motion, except I'm going to switch my hand that was right above the knee. It's now going to go to the far hip. Okay, the reason for that is if I go from here, I'm a lot taller than I was before. So if I try to do the same technique, I'm going to fall on my back. And I'm basically like pulling guard, like half guard. So I need to have control of my partner's hip so that as I'm coming down, I can also twist him and I have my whole arm to kind of fall onto as a base. Okay, basically try to take the same principles from the last finish of not trying to land on your back and apply the same thing to this technique. So like if you're doing the other technique where you're here using the knee slide from here, the things that make it easier are if you turn the corner as you're going down, you're less likely to go on your back. And also, the more behind my partner I get, the easier it'll be to keep myself from going all the way onto my shoulders. So if I go more from the side here and I try to do the same technique, I'll land like this, right? Where I'm falling onto my shoulder, but I'm on my back. Instead, you want to try to turn the corner and get more behind them. Look at how my left knee is going to go in between both my partner's legs. So it's here. Look at how I'm already turning my shoulders to face it. If your shoulders aren't facing your partner, you're going to be here. And it's easier to tip over and lose balance. If we get to this position, now it's a scramble to see who can get on top first. And so a little bit more risky. But we're going to apply the same ideas to this technique if you come up to the feet. Let's say you're driving up and you end up coming all the way up to here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my hand on the back of my partner's calf. My right arm will stay where it is. My left hand will switch to the far hip. I'm going to start pointing my knees towards this side. Okay, basically trying to face the same way that my partner is facing. Before I have my knees and my toes facing towards my partner's far leg, I'm going to turn both of them this way. Okay, you're going to do a baby step with your right leg forward, and then I'm going to do the same motion. I'm going to come down to a knee, start turning, and I'm basically going to hit a baseball slide. So it's here, step, then I turn. Land on the hip and my elbow again. I'm not here. Now we're here. I can start either clearing the leg, then coming up for the hips, or I can stay with my partner's leg trapped and then start looking for an over-under position and start working my pass once I get on top. Okay, so again, we're here and I push the leg back, control, wrestle up. I'm driving up into my partner. Okay, now we get to here. Okay, instead of staying on top of my partner's thigh, I switch to the far hip. Okay, that's going to help twist him. Okay, it's going to help bring his hip down to the ground. Here, I don't really have control of the far hip. I can turn his knee out, but I'm going to pull him on top of me if I fall down. Okay, so I reach for the far hip. I'm still controlling the calf on this side. Switch my stance so that we're here. Baby step forward, slide the knee, and then you're going to turn the corner as you're going down. Step, land on the hip. Build up all the way to your knees, and then start trying to connect to your pass as soon as you come on top. All right, so basically same takedown that we were doing before, but now we're just doing it from the feet. All right, try on 3. 1, 2.
My mind's a little melted there. That was a lot.
Yeah, I at the end there I was good with like the first 2 steps or the first 2 phases there.
Yeah, I started writing down and then I was running out of the notebook. I was like, oh man.
It's funny because I was like waiting for more information because there was so much there for me to take away.
Yeah.
But let's spend another 4 minutes privately by yourselves. Finish the book out, right? Like I still have what is the next step. I have a little bit more of the bonus tab, and I'm going to do my declare. Okay. Spend about 4 more minutes. I'm going to put some music on. 4 minutes doing your last few steps of the notepad. Then we're going to break into breakout groups, and I want you guys to discuss what your takeaway was from that video or what can be applied to your game or how it's going to help you, okay? Really simple. We're going to break into breakout groups. We'll have 4 and 4 again. it's gonna be an 8-minute breakout group. So of course we can't talk a bunch, but really just what you took away from the video, what really stood out to you the most, what you felt like was the revelation that you kind of had, and then possibly like what you're going to start, stop, or sustain doing. And then, you can briefly go over your declare. But once we come back into the main room, I want everybody to write their declare for the week. And again, the declare for the week, when you write it in the chat at the end of the call, doesn't have to do with anything besides the fact of like, it doesn't have to do with the technique part of what we did today. And so I don't want you to mess those two things up because, maybe there's something that you're going to really focus on that had nothing to do with this technique. Maybe as a business owner or a practitioner or whatever the case is, I want you to just declare in the chat at the end of this call so that everybody else can see it and maybe somebody else can take a piece away from that and add it to their weekly routine or whatever it is. All right, let's get started. I'll start first and then I'll pass it on. All right, let's go. The big thing that actually like blew my mind because I do like one of my probably highest percent techniques is wrestling up in like the last 30 seconds of a match to get the points to win. That's one thing that I've always kind of focused on that's had a lot of success is, they can't pass my guard. But then again, I don't have any points. And then in the last 30 seconds, I take a lot of risks to wrestle up to try to, hopefully win the match. And I never allowed myself, like, just as a rule of thumb, I always said, if I'm wrestling up on this outside leg, I'm keeping my outside hand there and I'm wrestling up off of that, if that makes sense. And I never thought about like actually diving my hand, the inside hand, in to get connection to the knee to pull myself up or to connect myself with them before I kind of slid around to the outside. So like that was a big one for me that my brain had to like kind of to rearrange itself because for me I always just felt weird reaching that hand on the inside and then being it like I felt like I was exposing my back or there was some danger there. So that's one thing I want to really play with this next week is like using both grips to wrestle up with and then really like looking into some of those like baseball sliding dumping mechanics. That was the big thing that I took away that I want to work on. And I will pass that on to Nathan.
Yeah, I enjoyed the video. I think the three things for me, it broke down to the staggered stance and the seated guard. I think sometimes myself, I get a little complacent and get to a square stance, whereas where I'm standing, I would never go to a square stance, right? So I have to have that same kind of thought process on the ground and just to follow that up. The same kind of thing with the hand fight and the off balance. Like if I'm playing takedowns, wrestling takedowns on my feet, those are all principles that I apply when I'm shooting takedowns. Off balancing, hand fight, head position. But when I'm playing the seated guard, wrestle up kind of approach, I don't always apply them. So I think the off balancing before entry and then the hand fight before entry to that single leg are takeaways I took from it. So
that was good. I like that. That was another one that stood out to me too that I wrote down as my bonus was I stay too squared up sometimes and I need to be more aggressive on my hip and that angle. So that's good.
It's like a comfortability thing. Like, you're not getting past, at least, for like, I know I'm not getting past if I'm square, but like, I'm not necessarily like pushing the action or pushing any sort of attack in that square stance seated. So
that's true. Who do you want to pass it on to?
Jacob.
Definitely what stood out to me was his way of how he grabbed his hand and how he was able to scoop up the ankle and get the ankle pick and how he did that baseball slide. That really stood out to me a lot. And how he was able to wrestle up and get on from that area. You can wrestle up into, from full guard or wherever from there. And to make sure that your hips facing up into your opponent. So, you're not giving your back away to him. And definitely whenever he had, because like what Nate said, kind of like that's where a lot of my problems is I'm always squared up. And definitely whenever I'm there, I need to turn my body into it a little bit more. So
Cool. Thank you, sir. I'm guessing we're left with Greg. Greg's the man.
So yeah, I'm not a wrestler, and so I try my best to never shoot for anything. So wrestling up, the extent of my wrestle ups are like arm drags, and so this is new for me. And one of the immediate things that stood out was he mentioned he doesn't shoot without having grips first. And anytime I have attempted to wrestle up, I found out why that's wrong. So I think that's really helpful to focus on grips first. And then the other thing also was I've heard so many different philosophies on coming in bladed or coming in square. And recently I think I've transitioned to be more square and seated like that. So being able to move more fluidly on one hip makes a lot more sense, especially when you're not necessarily just pulling guard, but trying to wrestle up.
Yeah, that's good. It's funny because for me, like I just it's weird because we're kind of been working on this series, a modified version of like doing the dummy sweep and everything for the last week in my academy. And the rule of thumb that I've always said is like don't put one hand on the mat and don't post one hand out, right? Because
Yeah.
like they can jump over your guard and they can triangle you and so I always get scared when I have that mechanic where like I have one hand on the mat so that I'm able to have quicker hip motion and quicker in and out entries. But then at the same time, like you've got to be hyper aware of those guys that are capable of jumping over your guard and throwing submissions at you. So like that's one thing that when you're squared up and your elbows are in at your side, like you don't have a lot of that risk. But now when you change this in, yeah, you're going more aggressive, but then at the same time too, like you're having the chance of things coming back at you just as well. So that's a big thing for me that I'm gonna just have to work with. It's kind of like when I've been working with the Delahiva, and do you play with the foot on the inside or do you play with the foot on the outside, right? Like Levi says you play with it on the outside, and Gordon says you play with it on the inside. And they everything that you do is going to have some kind of threat. So the biggest thing that we can do is like test yourself in a training environment where you trust your partners and you can put those threats, like I was working ankle locks. Andrew has a good ankle lock. So putting my foot on the outside and knowing he's not going to rip my foot off completely, but he's going to basically push it and test it. And that way I can actually test these things. But yeah, like that was my big takeaway is I think trying to be a little bit more active on the hip movement. And I like the framing on the head. When you're squared up, you don't get to really offset their posture very much. You can club the head, but you can't club the head and kind of like disrupt their posture in a way of like offsetting their base at the same time. You're just kind of clubbing their head and then hoping for a reaction. And when you're sitting squared up, that ability to come up is kind of harder than if you're on your side. It gives you ability to come up and actually wrestle up easier, if that makes sense.
My bad. I liked it whenever he was able to like push away instead of like doing that. Like whenever
Yeah.
he was able, it made more sense that way.
Thank you guys for being part of the group. We're going to close out. Reach the end of the call. I appreciate you guys bearing through all the technical issues as we try to figure out how to make this run smoother, flow smoother. I do want to drop in just the Telegram chat link real quick. I think if people are on Telegram, it will be easier, if we have these technical issues to just drop in the Zoom link there. Plus, what's kind of neat is within the Telegram group, I've been taking a picture of my notepad each week and just putting that in the research tab so that other people can see it and possibly, ask questions or take something away from it. But I want you guys to put your declare in for the week into the chat. Okay, so nothing crazy, a paragraph, two paragraphs of just what you plan on doing this week to improve your jiu-jitsu. Doesn't have to be related to the technique we watched today. Just what are you going to do to get your jiu-jitsu to the next level in the most basic form? I do appreciate you guys making these calls. I know it's a piece out of your time, your life, and They're kind of all over the place trying to get the structure. It's funny because I sat down here last night for an hour trying to get everything ready, thinking everything was going to be perfect. And then I showed up today at 9 a.m. and spent an hour having everything set up to make it perfect and still had mistakes, still had struggles. And I mean, in reality, that's exactly how jiu-jitsu is, right? Like you can show up to class and you can have everything ready and you can think that you have all the steps ready to go and you can still make mistakes. But I think at the end of it, like I enjoyed the call. I enjoyed listening to you guys and some of the things that you went over, some of the things that you're going to declare. And I just look forward to seeing where this call could go or where your guys' games could go if you keep kind of like diving into the idea of looking at technique and looking at different ways to improve your jiu-jitsu besides just showing up and like colliding every day. All right. Eventually, I think it would be cool to maybe get into some like recovery videos. We watch some things where like how can we maintain our body or how can we improve things like that. Just each week watching something that will like truly improve our jiu-jitsu and get it to the next level. So there's two things that I need from you guys for that. One is I would like for you guys in the Telegram group, or you can just text me or whatever's easier. The Telegram group's nice because I think as the community grows, people will see what you guys are looking into and it will help that next generation actually see other ideas and unlock things in their head. But I want you guys to say things like, hey, you know what? Like I'm working on X guard, I'm working on double X guard, whatever the case is, or I'm working on pulling guard and lifting the to the leg to the X guard entry, right? Like there's a lot of content on that. So if you guys get a chance where you think about this, send me a message a day or two before the meeting. And I'm looking through all these videos trying to decide what video to watch for the week. And if there's a video that's going to help you guys better, then I want to play that video. So don't be afraid to send me a message and say, hey, can for this week, can we look into this area? Okay. And then the other thing I ask is just try to let anybody know possibly about this call that might want to be on it. And let's just keep trying to grow the community. And I hope you guys have a great week.